Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gallatin County Republican Women's Live Meet and Greet with special guests, Congressman Greg Gianforte, candidate for Montana Governor, and his running mate, Kristen Juras. Thank you, Greg and Kristen, for joining us. Before I begin, I would like to tell the audience a little bit about both of you. Greg fell in love with Montana nearly 40 years ago when he first came here on a school trip. Greg and his wife, Susan, built a life here, started a small business, and raised their 4 children in Bozeman. Together, they enjoy hunting, fishing, rafting, climbing, skiing, and backpacking on Montana's public lands. They founded Right Now Technology 2 decades ago, and they grew it into the town's largest commercial employer, creating over 500 high-paying Montana jobs. Greg founded 5 different startup companies. He's worked to improve Montana's economy through the Better Montana Jobs Project. He also launched scholarship programs to help low-income students and veterans pursue the education and training they need to start a career in Montana. Greg was elected to Congress in 2017 and was reelected in 2018, and has worked with President Trump to cut taxes, stop job-killing regulations, and protect our Montana way of life. Kristen is a 4th-generation Montanan who grew up on her family's ranch near Conrad. As an attorney in private practice in Great Falls, Kristen has helped farmers, ranchers, and small business owners navigate legal issues, and she has provided pro bono services to clients with disabilities who confront homelessness and addiction. Kristen graduated from the University of Montana, the University of Georgia Law School, and she has taught at the University of Montana Law School for 20 years. Kristen ran for the Montana Supreme Court in 2016. Kristen and her husband, John, have been married for 35 years and have 3 sons and 2 grandchildren. Please welcome Greg Gianforte and Kristen Juras. Greg, would you like to make some statements at this time? It looks like Greg is disconnected. Maybe we'll start with Kristen. Kristen, would you like to start off the live meet and greet? I think, Kristen, you need to turn your volume on a little bit.
Okay, is that
There
better?
you go. There you go.
Okay, I will continue until Greg is able to rejoin us. But let me begin by saying I am really thrilled to be on the ticket with Greg. We need to get a Republican back into the governor's office after 16 years of a Democrat in the office and ever increasing spending and growing government. I think that Greg has the leadership skills, the business experience skills to put this state back on track. One of the reasons I was so excited to get the call from Greg is because he personally made a difference in my life. As you mentioned, I have 3 boys. I have a Bobcat engineer, I have a Grizzly music teacher, and an ore digger engineer. Well, when my ore digger graduated 8 years ago, he could not get a job in the state of Montana. He had to go out of state like so many of our children and our grandchildren. Well, just last year, because of the growth in the high-tech industry in Bozeman, generated in large part to the success of Greg and Susan's company, Right Now Technologies, Evan was offered a job offer. He's back in Bozeman. I was just in Bozeman this weekend for Mother's Day. We took a bike ride out to Spanish Creek, and that is why I support Greg. He is the one who does have the ability to create jobs, to get this economy going again, and we all need to get behind him. So a little bit more about myself. I have been practicing law for 38 years. And what I do on a daily basis is help farmers, ranchers, Main Street businesses navigate all of the legal issues that they face. One of the things that Greg and I would be very committed to doing is making our government agencies more responsive to businesses. I also want to mention that I am the president of our local Cascade County Republican Women, and I am Shirley Keffer's first vice president on a statewide basis. I'm passionate about the GOP platform and bringing those conservative values back into the governor's office. So, Carol, has Greg been able to join us back
Not
in?
yet. Not yet, but I can go into some questions that were specific for you, and I think we can hopefully Greg will join shortly. One of the questions was, for you specifically, how do you see your role as Lieutenant Governor for Montana? What specifically will you focus on in the Lieutenant Governor's office?
Okay. You know, Greg is somebody who doesn't waste talent. And one of the things that he is going to do is he's going to put good, qualified people in the right places. My role as Lieutenant Governor, Greg and I have talked about several things that use my experience and my skill set. And one of those is my legal background. And as I mentioned, one of the first things that we would undertake is a top to bottom regulatory review in each agency, identifying outdated, burdensome, unnecessary regulations and eliminating those. And the goal is this, the goal is to streamline processes and to make these agencies more responsive to the people that they serve. We would identify the programs that are working and make sure that those continue and try to duplicate them and improve the programs that aren't working. With my background in agriculture, I am very interested in agriculture, as Greg is, and working to improve value-added agricultural opportunities throughout Montana to preserve the high value, high quality Montana brand on our products as they travel through the supply chain, to encourage more private slaughterhouse facilities here. We've all seen the bottleneck and what's happening in the beef industry now with shutting down of different slaughterhouses. So working hard as a liaison with agricultural groups. And the last thing I'll mention, and then we'll get this back to Greg, and Greg's going to talk to you about one of the big problems that Montana faces is the meth and drug epidemic. And with my background in the legal system, both Greg and I support for nonviolent offenders rehabilitation rather than incarceration, which is just, it's less expensive and it produces a better result. And I would be very interested in working with the judicial system to expand our drug treatment courts. They've been very successful in the handful of communities where they exist, but we need to get those available throughout the state. So.
Thank you, Kristen. Well, Greg, I read a complete bio on you, so now it's your time to speak to the attendees.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for, I heard your entire presentation. For some reason, my camera wouldn't come on. So I'm happy to be with you now. And Kristen, you did a great job. So terrific. I am thrilled to be running with Kristen Juras. You had a little bit of her background. I think we complement each other extremely well. With my business background, this is what we've heard as we've traveled the state. People want business experience in the governor's office. And it's my business background complemented with Kristen's legal background, my tech background, growing and creating jobs here in the state, with her deep agricultural roots. I think we make a fantastic pair. I'm thrilled that she joined the ticket. And I'm running for a very simple reason. Too many families have seen their kids and grandkids leave the state of Montana because there aren't enough good paying jobs here. That is why I'm running to be your next governor. We have a plan that's very simple, 4 points. Kristen covered a lot of this, but number one, particularly coming through this COVID crisis, more now than ever, we need business experience in the governor's office to get our economy started again, to get individuals back on their feet, to get small businesses opened again. This is tax policy. It's making decisions around our budget. It's bringing accountability back to state government. One of the first things I do is replace most of the heads of the state agencies. We need to get these agencies working for the people again. And as Kristen mentioned, one of the first projects we're going to undertake is a top to bottom regulatory review to remove the friction. Because although our objective is more good paying jobs, it's not government that creates jobs. It's entrepreneurs, it's small business owners, it's farmers and ranchers. But government can create an environment where those folks can do and prosper and create jobs. So it's about bringing accountability to state government. Kristen mentioned needing to tackle this drug epidemic. I was with a business owner recently in Missoula. He said 70% of his job applicants can't pass a drug test.
Oh, man.
Just think about that for a second. We have 4,000 kids in foster care in Montana that don't have moms and dads, in large part because of the drug epidemic. Over 90% of the crime we see is drug related, according to local sheriffs. So this is an all hands on deck issue. Kristen mentioned we're going to focus more on rehabilitation instead of incarceration, which costs less and produces a better result. And then finally, we have to protect our way of life. This is First Amendment, it's Second Amendment. It's life itself needs to be protected here in the state. And of course, just our precious public lands, we need to keep them in public hands and work to increase access to them. So I'm excited about having the opportunity to serve with Kristen in Helena to create better outcomes for all Montanans. That's really our focus.
Great. Well, we do have quite a few questions,
Okay.
so I'll go ahead and start with some of the questions. COVID has proved to be an unexpected economic hardship for homeowners, ranchers, businesses, first responders, and all Montanans, with possible repercussions that could last for years to come. What is your plan to help Montanans on a going forward basis and to keep this from happening again?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different questions, and be clear, I've been working aggressively on this issue in Congress. You saw the CARES Act. I probably put myself at the head of the line of fiscal conservatives. That being said, when government shuts the economy down, we have an obligation to help it start back up again. I voted for the CARES Act, which provided payments directly to families across the state, and now $1.5 billion to small business. We also have an appropriation to get our farmers and ranchers back on their feet and keep local hospitals operating. Again, I think this stimulus is essential to get our economy starting again, but we have to get this state open back up. We don't know exactly what the financial shape of the state is going to be, but this is why you need the experience that Kristen and I bring to actually manage this budget through this. Ultimately, government checks are not going to sustain a strong economy. The only thing that's going to do that is entrepreneurs and business people. That's why we need to peel the regulations back, lower the tax burden, and start to grow new lines of revenue without raising taxes. That's a bright line for me. I don't think you ever tax your way to prosperity. So we need lower property taxes, lower income taxes, and less business equipment taxes. A couple of things I want to do to get the economy going is, our DEQ and DNRC have become project prevention departments. We need new leadership. I think we can develop our natural resources and protect the environment. This would create jobs and it would create new revenue streams so we can pay for things like our schools, fighting this drug epidemic, and without increasing the tax burden. The other thing that we're going to do is, I think one of the silver linings in this crisis that we're in is that all the Montanans who have moved away over the last decades have realized if they have a desk job, they don't have to go to work. And I think we ought to be taking the alumni list from all the universities in the state and inviting Montanans to come home and bring their jobs with them. I did this experiment with the former mayor of Shelby, Larry Bonderud, 3 years ago. And I saw him recently. We handed out 1,500 invitations at a high school reunion in Shelby 3 summers ago. As of just 2 months ago, based on that one invitation, 15 families have moved back to Shelby. They've brought jobs with them. They're working remotely in Denver and Seattle and Spokane. They've brought spouses with them. They have families. Their spouses are now part of the local workforce or staying at home, taking care of kids. Kids have enrolled in the local school. They're shopping downtown. Imagine if every community in the state could recruit home a couple of handfuls of families each year for the next 10 years. We'd totally change the economy, bring vibrancy back into rural Montana. And we can do this. It just takes vision and an understanding of how we can leverage the internet to diversify our economy and bring jobs here.
Excellent. The next question. COVID has presented a shortfall to cities, counties, and the state, and many Montanans are concerned about rising property taxes, a proposed state gas tax, and the possibility of adding a state sales tax, all of which would present additional economic and a financial hardship. How do you propose to balance the budget? Part of this you've already answered, while keeping the financial hardship of Montanans in mind. And do you support a state gas tax and or sales tax?
Yeah, so you won't get new taxes from me. I just don't think you tax your way to prosperity. The root problem is twofold. One, we've had massive growth in state government over the last 10 years. We've seen 60% expansion in state government. What Kristen and I will do is bring accountability to these state agencies and slow the growth. This will give us the flexibility then when we manage through this economic crisis we're currently in to lower property taxes, to lower income taxes, to remove some of the business equipment taxes that are so burdensome to small business. And I just think that I did this with President Trump at a national level, and we saw the impact on the overall national economy. It's just that we haven't had a similar approach here in Montana, but that's going to change when we're your next governor and lieutenant governor.
Assuming the state revenues will be hard hit by the COVID shutdown, how will you as governor work with the legislature to find solutions to balance the state budget?
Yeah, so this is what I've done my whole career. I've been in business, right? We don't know exactly what the financial situation of the state is yet, though there are those predicting the wheels will come off. I'm actually optimistic that we're going to get the economy open back up and the gears of commerce will start turning again. But at the end of the day, we're gonna have a better view of where we are in June and July as state tax revenues come in. But I look forward to working with the legislature. But the commitment I'll make to you is no new taxes. We need to find ways to manage through this to get Montana back on its feet. And honestly, I believe our best days are ahead of us if we have business leadership in the governor's office.
Would you tap into the coal severance tax, the rainy day fund? If so, for what purpose?
Well, I think it's difficult to access that money. It requires a supermajority in the House, in the Senate. So there'd have to be a really compelling reason to use that. The bright line for me is if it's a choice between raising your property taxes and using a portion of the coal tax fund to provide relief for a rainy day, which is what it was put there for, I think all those options should be on the table. But I'm optimistic we can get our economy going and actually grow revenue without increasing taxes.
How do you feel about a tax credit of some sort for school choice?
Well, I've always been, I think parents know what's best for their children. I've been a proponent of programs to help parents get the best education. And I think there are really two things we need to focus on. I've probably spent more time in K through 12 education than anything else in my life outside of work. I was chairman of an independent school for 14 years. I've served on a number of national boards as it relates to K through 12 education. And Montana needs strong public schools, particularly in our rural communities. You can't have, the economics don't support multiple schools in a place like Saco. Last time I was in the public school up there were 42 kids K through 12, 22 full-time people working in the school. It's hard to make those economics work. I was in a small town recently in Montana, and a high school social studies teacher came up to me and said, Greg, I need to talk to you for a minute. He said, could we go off to the side for a little bit? And this grown man, he's probably early 30s, started crying. And he said to me, I may be here in this rural community, but I still have Montana State University debt. And I haven't had 3 meals a day for over a year. And if it wasn't for the free food I get at this local school here, I wouldn't be able to live here. And I think a worker is due their wages, and we are appropriating money for our schools, and it's not getting to the classroom. And this is one of the biggest issues that we need to address. Wyoming pays twice as much to their public school teachers as what Montana does. We need strong public schools, and we need to be, our overarching goal has to be to help every child reach their full potential.
What will your priorities be when you tackle the first 100 days?
Well, that's easy. We're going to replace the heads of most of the state agencies and start to bring this accountability. I look forward to working with the legislature, because if I become your next governor, the day I get sworn in, the legislature gets started, and we only get the opportunity every 2 years. So we've already looked through all the vetoes that the last 2 governors have done. There's many good ideas there. Unfortunately, with 16 years of Democrat governors, most of the conservative ideas have ended up in the trash can in the governor's office. That's a good place to start. Those ideas have been vetted. But my priorities in that first legislative session is we need to come out with a balanced budget that doesn't increase the tax burden on Montanans. We need to get new heads of these state agencies, and we need to bring a culture of customer service back to these state agencies to get them working for the people again.
You've touched on this next question a little bit. What are your ideas for restoring and developing new jobs in Montana?
Well, I'm a business guy. This is what I've done my whole career, is create jobs. Susan and I started actually in this room, in our home. We started our business Right Now Technologies, and people here in Gallatin County are well aware, but that business grew to 1,100 employees. Our average Montana wage was almost $90,000 a year, plus stock options, plus time off for community service. And I want to bring that skill to the governor's office. And we're going to look industry by industry. Kristen talked about it for a minute, but we need to help our agriculture sector capture more of the value for the great products they produce. I think that involves preserving the Montana brand through the supply chain so that discerning consumers can pay more for a Montana steak because they know it's better than one from Brazil or someplace else. In manufacturing, I'm a huge proponent of trades education. We don't have enough carpenters and plumbers and welders and machinists in Montana. That's a path to a brighter future for more people. I think as we disengage from our supply chains from China, we ought to be looking at opening up manufacturing plants here in Montana to put the Montana work ethic to work for national security. I think high tech is a big section. This is why I'm a big proponent of getting computer education into our high schools and find a way to do that in partnership with our great teachers. I'm going to invite Montanans to come back home and bring jobs with them. I think, again, this is a silver lining of this crisis. And I'm going to be the #1 sales guy for the state of Montana. I've built a business here. I can speak firsthand about the advantages of the Montana work ethic and why you should locate here in Montana.
This next question might be a good one for Kristen. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, has been successful in eliminating the failed Common Core education principles and moving back towards some of the tried and true ways of education, but with a new emphasis on the Constitution and civics. He found that students are graduating from high school and universities with degrees in history and political science and are not required to take courses in American history or the Constitution. As Lieutenant Governor, how will you change Montana's education system so students have a fair understanding of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and civics, and how the U.S. is unique and is a unique and exceptional country.
Well, you are right. I am passionate about the Constitution. I've given presentations to clubs around the state. The good thing about Montana is this: our curriculum is locally driven. And this is where Greg and I can support grassroots local involvement by parents and members of the community to understand what is being taught in their schools. And, I think that's another silver lining of this pandemic. Parents are now seeing, as they're monitoring their students and their online classes, I think they have a better understanding of what is being taught in our Montana schools. And we do need to make sure from a grassroots level that our core curriculum includes constitutional studies, and it does. Currently, right now, in our core curriculum, there are requirements for the Constitution to be taught, but every local school district has control over the curriculum and the exact textbooks that are chosen, and Greg and I would support grassroots involvement in every community in Montana, getting parents involved in the curriculum selection process and making sure that these topics are well covered.
All right, this next question is for Greg. What is your view on contact tracing of people who have tested positive for COVID? Do you think it will be effective?
Well, we've looked at how other communities have responded, particularly overseas, and contact tracing is part of the solution. But let me be clear. As of this morning, we have 4 people in the hospital in the entire state of Montana with COVID. We took drastic measures to shut down the economy, to knock the top off this infection curve. And we've succeeded. And it's time to get back to normal. I think everybody, we all have a little bit of cabin fever. We need to be conscious of public health concerns. And people are scared because it's uncertain. But we also have almost 100,000 people unemployed in the state of Montana. We have a public health crisis. The good news is we're getting our arms around that. And there's now over 200 vaccines and treatments in clinical trials. We're probably going to have a reoccurrence at some level of COVID, but I'm hopeful that by the end of this year, based on what I'm hearing from the CDC and HHS and private sector firms, we're going to have a vaccine, and we'll certainly have treatments by the end of the year. So we're going to be in a much better position to get back there. We have to get our economy going again so that we can bring the American dream back. We had nationally a strong economy coming into this situation. We've necessarily shut it down. We know a lot more about this virus now. By and large in Montana, the crisis, the health crisis has passed. We need to get the economy going and get back on our feet.
What will your position be for Montana if there is a compulsory vaccine for COVID put forward?
Well, I think individuals make that decision. If there's a vaccine, I'm going to have the vaccine because I think American ingenuity is remarkable. This is a unique case where we haven't seen a virus come on the scene like this in a long, long time, certainly not in any of our lifetimes, that has had this level of contagiousness. I personally will get the vaccine.
COVID has caused many Montana citizens to be out of work for months or their jobs have been eliminated. What are your thoughts on immigration and or opting out of accepting refugees that could potentially take jobs away from Montana citizens?
Yeah, so I support President Trump in his actions recently to push pause on green card processing coming into the country. We've had, the range of positions on this. We have on the Democrat side, we have people that want open borders and let people come over. And I've been standing with President Trump on this. We need to secure our border. The biggest issue is the drug trades that are coming into this country. I think our priority has to be in helping Americans get back on their feet, and so that we can once again be the land of opportunity for those that live here first, and then we can look at others that want to come and contribute their skills to our country.
The next question is from Therese Frank. Would you sign a bill legalizing raw milk?
You know, I'm not an expert on raw milk. I think if somebody wants to drink their milk from their cow, they should be able to go ahead and do that. As I would in many of these cases, I would consult with public health officials to make a decision on what's the right thing to do. Generally, I think that our Constitution provides individual freedom and liberty. We need to preserve that. I know that this has been a concern, particularly during this recent crisis with these stay-at-home orders and other mandates coming from the government. I think we have to make sure we preserve our freedoms.
Teresa Frank also asks, do you know that the law only requires one vaccine for daycare along with a religious exemption, but DPHHS has added over 24 doses for children to the required list and does not accept a personal or religious exemption? What, if anything, will you do to address this?
Well, first thing we need to do is get a new leader for DPHHS. The thing has turned into a monolith. DPHHS consumes now 40% of our state budget. It's a massive organization. And it has oversight on child protective services, the Medicaid expansion that has occurred, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I hear, as I travel the state, many people reporting difficulty working with the agency, and we need reform. And to bring accountability back, to mention another issue there, you know, with the Medicaid expansion that we've seen here in the state, our state currently doesn't do asset or income verifications for people signing up for Medicaid expansion, which means, I mean, I support a safety net for people that can't take care of themselves. I think we do collectively as a society. But if we let everybody climb on the safety net, it's going to collapse under the weight. We have to bring accountability back to these state agencies.
Mim Malloy asks a question for Greg again. What if we have a resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic and there was a vaccine available, but the majority refused to take it? How will you govern through that?
Well, there's a bunch of hypotheticals in that. I have trouble, you know, dealing with all those. I will say, we didn't know a lot about this virus when it first came on the scene in January. We now know a lot more. Particularly, we know that many people, although it's a bad virus to get, most people recover. I think if we had a resurgence, we ought to take advantage of science where it makes sense. I think individuals should be making decisions as to what they do here. I'm a bigger fan of recommendations than mandates. But that being said, I'm confident that we will have treatments before the end of the year. I also think now that we know that it affects the elderly, people with respiratory problems, and people with depleted immune systems, if we had a reoccurrence, I think we should focus more on protecting the vulnerable than shutting the economy down. That would mean, I think, for example, restricting visitors at senior homes. That makes sense. If you have respiratory problems or your immune system is deficient, stay at home. But don't tell everybody to stay at home when we know who is vulnerable, and then make the treatments available so people can get it.
Do you believe people should be able to opt out of all required school vaccines for personal beliefs, not religious?
Again, this is a question that needs to be taken in consultation with school superintendents, as well as public health officials. And I don't have the answer to every question, but what I do know how to do is put teams of people together and build consensus around issues. There are people on both sides of this issue. Families that have vaccinated, sending their kids to school, are concerned about outbreaks and the impact it has on their learning. So we would need to take a decision in consultation with folks involved and impacted by the decision.
Whitney Williams has a TV ad stating that Greg Gianforte is against women's rights, referring to abortion. How would you like to respond?
Well, I am unabashedly, as Kristen is, pro-life. I think life is precious and it should be protected from conception through natural death. That doesn't mean we're going to take medical care away from women. I mean, I think we need to expand access to care for women. But I will always be pro-life. That's why I'm proud to be endorsed by the Susan B. Anthony list, because of my pro-life voting record in Congress, and I would carry that to the governor's office.
I only have one more question left for Greg at this time. Look, accepted approximately 70,000 refugees into Montana. When the refugees find employment, 50% of their salary comes from Montana taxpayer dollars. President Trump announced that states have the option to opt out of accepting refugees. Since COVID has caused many Montana citizens to lose their jobs, will you opt out of accepting refugees so that Montana citizens and taxpayers come first?
Yes.
That was a good, quick answer.
Hard.
Well, that concludes the questions for today. Greg and Kristen, do you have anything you'd like to say as part of a closing statement?
Sure. I would just like to say I thank you for putting this forum on. I know this is, I'd rather be there with you face to face, but this is the second best option. I am excited about the potential of Montana. And I would just, if you believe in the vision that we've shared here, I would just humbly ask you for your vote. The ballots are out. We've been encouraged by the reaction we've been getting across the state. And ultimately, we need a team that can win in November to make sure we bring conservative business principles to the governor's office so we can create better outcomes for all Montanans. And Carol, I just appreciate the opportunity to speak with your group. And I'm just thrilled that Kristen's on the ticket with me. I think we make a great team, and we look forward to going to work for you.
Kristen, would you like to make some closing statements? You've been quiet this whole time. All right, well, I would like to.
I'm sorry, I thought I was muted. I just, I want to thank the Republican women, and I want to thank the Republican Women Club for what you do to educate. And I just strongly encourage you to make every effort to get the conservative vote out, not only for the primary election, but for the general election, to keep up your grassroots efforts, which that's where government occurs, and it should continue to occur. And I would be thrilled to join Greg in the governor's office this November. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you both. Thank you, Kristen, and our audience for joining today. This video and additional information on Greg and Kristen will be on our website at GallatinCountyRepublicanWomen.com. I would like to thank Karen Clements, Carly Hill, and Mary Pham for arranging the live meet and greet and streaming it on our website and on Facebook. This Friday, the Gallatin County Republican Women are hoping to host a second live meet and greet with either Dr. O and running mates. Please watch your emails or visit our website at GallatinCountyRepublicanWomen.com. As you know, during the primary, Gallatin County Republican Women does not endorse any specific candidate at this time. This concludes our live meet and greet with Greg Gianforte and Kristen Juras. Thank you all for joining and participating, and thank you for your great questions. If you would like to hear from our candidates or other items of interest, please contact us at Gallatin County Republican Women. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Greg and Kristen.
Oh, thank you.